Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I was kicked out by my own parents from the very house I paid for. They sneered at me, "You're just an ATM, not our son." But their smirks didn't last long. When the lawyers and police showed up, they were the ones packing their bags, gone within 24 hours. The scent of freshly mowed grass mixed with my mother's lilac perfume used to smell like home. It once meant safety, belonging. Now it reeks of something else, something manufactured. A carefully constructed lie. My name is Mason, and I'm 32. For most of my adult life, I believed love was shown through sacrifice. That family meant unconditional loyalty. That giving, providing, was the purest form of love. Those weren't just beliefs, they were my truth. The air I breathed. The foundation I built my life on. My greatest fear? That I'd be unloved, unwanted, disposable to the very people I'd given everything to. My parents, Maeve and Roland Donovan, were masters of appearances. To the world, they looked like the picture-perfect suburban couple. Maeve with her neatly styled blonde hair and endless hours spent organizing church bake sales. Roland, ever the charismatic man in the tailored suits, always ready with a handshake and a booming laugh. The ideal American family straight off a Hallmark card. In public, they treated my brother and me as equals, warm, affectionate, doting. But behind the scenes, the script flipped. I was the reliable one, the practical son, the financial pillar. Reed, my younger brother, was the dreamer, the creative spirit who was finding himself. That journey took him through a series of whimsical detours: artisanal coffee obsessions, a brief stint with landscape photography, a startup idea that fizzled before it even began. And every single time, my parents funded him, without hesitation. Maeve's manipulative softness was her superpower. She'd touch my arm lightly and say things like, "Reed's just so sensitive. Mason, you're good with numbers, you understand sacrifice, don't you?" That line became her refrain, a gentle guilt trip cloaked in maternal warmth. It twisted my desire to help into a duty I could never refuse. It always hurt, a dull ache in my chest, but I'd smile. Nod. What else could I do? I was Mason, the good son, the dependable one. That was the role assigned to me. The house, our two-story colonial nestled in a leafy Boston suburb, was more than just a home. It was a monument to my loyalty. Every decision I made in my 20s, every grueling overtime shift, every canceled vacation, every dream deferred was for them. I remember the bitter smell of stale coffee from all those sleepless coding marathons. The sharp, persistent pain in my back from hours hunched over a screen. And I remember why I kept going. The mortgage, the bills, their never-ending emergencies. The burdens they quietly passed to me. Roland often lamented about market downturns or surprise expenses, always ending with the same refrain. "The house, Mason, it's all we have left. Our legacy." He'd fix his gaze on me, part plea, part command, a silent agreement embedded in his eyes. I used to dream about the day the mortgage would finally be gone, imagining the freedom it would bring not just for them, but for me too. I pictured what it would feel like to finally breathe, to start a life of my own without the constant pressure of their financial burdens. The day I made the final payment on the mortgage remains etched in my memory with bone-deep clarity. I sent the certified check and tracked it obsessively. When the confirmation finally arrived, I drove straight to the house. My father greeted me with a rare, genuine hug, his scent of Old Spice and sawdust from his woodworking clinging to him. "You're our rock," he said. Maeve, eyes glistening with what I desperately hoped were tears of gratitude, whispered, "We never could have done this without you, Mason. This house is as much yours as it is ours." Those words, gentle, promising, lingered in my mind like a fragile thread of hope. But the relief was fleeting, vanishing like smoke in the air. The mortgage was gone, yes, but the demands never ceased. Soon it was Reed's latest startup idea. Then, a sudden urgent home repair. Or some vague medical issue that never quite took shape. The requests kept coming, relentless. Each time my phone lit up with their names, a familiar dread curled in my stomach. The stress grew with every call. My bank account, once a healthy testament to years of effort and sacrifice, began to feel like a leaking faucet, pouring into a desert that never bore fruit. And the manipulation? It started to creep in more clearly. Slowly, subtly, I was excluded from decisions. Forgotten during Sunday dinners. Ignored when it came to holiday plans. "Oh, we thought you'd be too busy, dear," Maeve would say sweetly, too sweetly, with something unspoken just beneath the surface. I became an outsider in my own family, watching from the sidelines as Reed, for his latest whim, received glowing praise and expensive gifts: a drone, a vintage guitar. Lavish tokens I knew, deep down, were bought with my money. Anytime I tried to draw the line, to gently suggest they or Reed take financial responsibility, I was met with emotional backlash. After everything we've done for you, Mason, the sacrifices we've made, Maeve would sigh, her eyes filling with perfectly timed tears that made me question myself, my feelings, my boundaries, my sanity. Even the scent of her costly potpourri, once soothing, now felt oppressive, a thick reminder of the expectations pressing down on me. What was once a house filled with shared dreams had become a prison. The family photos on the mantel, so carefully arranged, told a lie. They showed a warm, united family. But even when I was in the frame, I wasn't really in it. I was invisible, a ghost. A bank account with legs. Never truly their son. Never truly seen. And the shift in how they treated me? It wasn't sudden. It was a quiet erosion, steady, deliberate, and deeply wounding. The way they looked through me, not at me, the condescending smirk Reed wore like a badge, it all chipped away at something inside me. Bit by bit, I was being hollowed out, left waiting for the inevitable break. The quiet weight of their expectations pressed down on me like a vice. Then it happened. Mason, we're downsizing. Your position's been eliminated. The words hit like a gut punch. The sterile office, with its sharp smell of disinfectant, mocked the vibrant, demanding life I'd carefully built. In a moment, the foundation I'd spent years solidifying, financial security, crumbled beneath me. The reality of unemployment settled into my bones like winter chill. My first thought, instinctive and almost primitive, was home. The house. The one I had poured so much of myself into. The one I believed, after everything, I had earned a place in. A right that couldn't be taken away. I clung to that thought. It was all I had. The long drive from the city blurred past me, silence in the car amplifying the noise in my mind. Familiar streets greeted me, manicured lawns, blooming Elias perfuming the air, each detail lulling me into a fragile illusion of belonging. The moment I stepped onto the porch, the smell of Maeve's signature pot roast drifted out, a scent that once meant comfort, now cloaking an approaching storm. I took a deep breath. Hope and fear tangled on my tongue, and stepped inside. They were in the kitchen. Maeve at the stove, Roland behind his newspaper, and Reed sprawled across the sofa, designer headphones crowning his head as he scrolled idly on his phone. I lost my job today, I said, my voice trembling despite myself. The room fell still. The spoon in Maeve's hand froze mid-stir. My parents exchanged a glance, small, fleeting, but sharp enough to slice. Maeve's lips thinned, her usual smile erased in an instant. Roland didn't meet my eyes. From the doorway, Reed lowered his headphones, just enough to hear. A faint smirk played on his lips. Oh, Mason, Maeve said finally, her voice flat, drained of comfort. That's unfortunate. But what does that mean exactly? It means I need somewhere to stay, I said. Just for a little while, until I get back on my feet. I thought I could stay here. I paused, hesitated, then added softly, I paid for it. The words hung in the air like a stone dropping into still water. Maeve's face went cold. Her eyes, which I knew so well, now gave nothing away. Roland clenched his jaw, his expression growing stern. Paid for it? She echoed with a bitter laugh. Mason, sweetheart, you helped us. There's a difference. The heat rose in my face, shame quickly turning to anger. I paid off the entire mortgage. Every last penny, I said, each word careful and deliberate. Reed wandered in, leaning casually against the doorframe. His arms crossed, and in his eyes, usually so empty, there was now a spark of cruel amusement. Yeah, Mason, you helped. Big whoop, he said with a shrug. Doesn't mean you own the place. You're just the benefactor. That word benefactor struck like a slap. You're not our son, Maeve added, her voice sharp now, stripped of every ounce of warmth. You're just an ATM, Mason. The words came from the same woman who once kissed scraped knees, who cheered at school plays, who taught me to ride a bike. Now her voice, twisted with contempt, carved through me like ice. My chest tightened, as if barbed wire had been wound around my lungs. A hot flush of shame surged through me, quickly chased by a cold, dizzying wave of disbelief. My hands shook so violently I had to ball them into fists just to steady myself. I could barely breathe. Is this what family means to you? I asked, my voice breaking, raw with disbelief. The taste in my mouth was bitter disappointment distilled to its purest form. From the living room, the old mantel clock ticked relentlessly, a wedding gift to my parents. Each tick was a cruel reminder of time lost, illusions shattered. Then Roland's voice exploded, a thunderous shout that made the dishes rattle. Get out, Mason. Now. You hear me? Get out of my house, or I swear I'll call the police. His face, once a pillar of stern calm, was twisted with fury. His eyes burned with it. Maeve stood beside him, her expression a cold sculpture, her mouth a thin slash. And don't come back, she added, her tone icy. You've always been a drain, Mason. Always. Reed's smirk twisted wider, victory dripping from every inch of it. It wasn't just smug, it was joy. He was delighted by my pain. I was desperate. I clung to the one promise I believed in: the house, the contributions I had made. Show me the deed, I said, barely able to keep the tremble from my voice. The papers. My name is on them. It has to be. A last, frantic reach for something solid. Roland walked to the desk with a casual cruelty and pulled open a drawer. He yanked out a stack of documents and shoved them at me. His stare dared me to find the truth. My hands trembled as I fumbled through the pages, the legal language blurring until my eyes locked on what wasn't there. My name. Nowhere. Only theirs. Roland and Maeve Donovan. The breath was knocked from me. My knees almost buckled. The truth stamped and notarized struck like a physical blow. My trust mocked in ink and paper. The house, once the symbol of all I had worked for, suddenly felt alien. Every familiar creak in the floorboards sounded like judgment. The framed photos on the walls, arranged with such care to display the perfect family, were nothing more than lies frozen in time. The scent of lilacs, of pot roast gone, replaced by something sharp and foul: betrayal. This was it. My lowest moment. Homeless. Betrayed. Stripped of everything I had built my life around. I turned and walked out, leaving behind warmth that was never real and air thick with deception. The cold night wrapped around me as I stepped into the street. The harsh light of the old neighborhood street lamps fell on me like a spotlight, casting jagged shadows that mirrored the wreckage inside me. I slid into my car, resting my forehead against the steering wheel. The chill of the metal seeped into my skin as numbness settled in. Inside, I felt nothing but a void. An emptiness so deep it seemed endless. And then something shifted. In that silence, a spark flared. Small, icy, but real. Not sorrow, anger. Focused. Razor sharp. They had used me. Manipulated me. Tossed me aside like trash. And in that moment, one thing became unmistakably clear. I was done. Done being their ATM. Done being invisible. Done being their son in name only. I was no longer a victim. I was a man who had been taken for granted, and now I was ready to fight back. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was Sabrina Jenkins, an old college friend, and now a sharp, no-nonsense real estate lawyer in Boston. We hadn't spoken in months, maybe even a year, but she called as if she somehow sensed my pain. I told her everything, my voice raw with emotion. She listened quietly, without judgment, her silence a comforting presence. When I finished, she didn't offer pity. Instead, her calm, logical voice was a lifeline. Mason, this isn't just about the house, she said. It's about them stripping away your dignity. You have to fight for yourself. You have a strong case. Her words lit a beacon inside me, sparking a new, healthier idea of family, one built on honesty and respect, not manipulation. The decision became clear. This wasn't revenge, it was justice. It was about drawing a line, reclaiming my self-worth, and exposing the ugly truth behind their perfect public facade. I would fight not with anger, but with facts and legal precision. The storm was only beginning, and this time, I wouldn't be caught in the rain. I would be the thunder. The next morning, exhaustion still weighed heavily on me, but beneath it, a cold, steady resolve had taken root. My mother's sneer echoed in my mind. You're just an ATM, not our son. It fueled a quiet, burning fury. I drove to Sabrina's office in downtown Boston. The air here was sharp with ambition, and the smell of old paper a welcome relief from the sickly sweet falsehood of my parents' home. Sabrina Jenkins was everything I wasn't: sharp, methodical, and utterly unsentimental when it came to legal matters. Her office was sleek and minimalist, reflecting her no-nonsense style. Okay, Mason, she said, her voice clear and decisive as she gestured for me to sit. We're not just proving you paid for the house. We're arguing unjust enrichment and an implied trust based on their promises and your substantial financial contributions. Even if your name isn't on the deed, we can claim they held the property in trust for you. It won't be easy, but our case is strong. We spent hours gathering evidence, bank statements going back 10 years, showing every payment I made directly to the mortgage company or their account for house-related expenses. Old emails, some surprisingly detailed, where my parents acknowledged my contributions. Even Maeve's saccharine notes thanking me for saving their home. Faded holiday cards with Roland's sprawling handwriting praising my generosity in securing the family's future. Every receipt, every text message formed a digital breadcrumb trail of betrayal. The volume of evidence was overwhelming, each document a nail in the coffin of my past illusions, a concrete testament to their deceit. The scent of old paper and dusty files in Sabrina's office, usually dull, now carried the promise of justice. Meanwhile, my parents remained completely unaware of the storm building around them, continuing their public charade. Reed, emboldened by my absence, bombarded social media with endless updates of their perfect family life photos of dinners, holidays, gatherings I wasn't invited to, all carefully curated to maintain their image. He captioned these posts with nauseating lines like, "Family is everything. So blessed," alongside pictures flaunting expensive gadgets and a state-of-the-art gaming console. A high-end bicycle paid for entirely with my money. I knew with bitter certainty that Maeve, ever the performer, would often comment on mutual friends' Facebook posts with phrases like, "Thinking of Mason, he's having some struggles adjusting to adult life, bless his heart." Her words, dripping with fake sympathy, subtly painted me as troubled and ungrateful, quietly gaslighting our shared community. Their signature blend of public image maintenance and private manipulation was in full, sickening force. They were so consumed by their own carefully constructed narrative, so wrapped up in their fabricated reality, that they never noticed the storm quietly gathering. Then came the discovery phase of our legal case. Sabrina, with her usual clinical precision, requested all their financial records. As we sifted through the digital files, something caught my eye: a separate, older set of documents. My heart hammered in my chest. "Sabrina," I whispered, barely able to speak, "what's this?" She leaned in for a closer look. "This is a will. An older one. And a property agreement." What we uncovered sent a cold shock through me, far deeper than the initial blow of being kicked out. It wasn't just a hidden will, it was a meticulously crafted financial agreement dated 5 years ago, explicitly disinheriting me from all their assets, while granting Reed sole ownership of everything, including the house. The truly sinister part? This document was signed long before I made the final mortgage payment. Not only that, but they had secretly taken out a second, substantial mortgage on the house after I paid off the first, using those funds to bankroll Reed's failing ventures and support their lavish lifestyle, all while I was still sending money for maintenance, believing I was securing my place. This wasn't just exploitation. It was premeditated fraud and calculated malice. My chest felt hollow, a vast, echoing void. The truth hit me like a physical blow, a sucker punch from those I thought loved me. They hadn't just used me. They had actively conspired against me, seeing me as nothing more than a resource to be drained dry while ensuring my permanent exclusion. The faded ink on that document screamed their betrayal, a silent, damning testament to their true nature. Every memory, every sacrifice, every ounce of trust one had ever placed in them shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The pain was unbearable, but beneath it grew a fierce, unshakable resolve. The rage was pure, cleansing, burning away the last remnants of my naive hope. The day of reckoning arrived, with crisp morning air thick with the scent of damp earth, and an unspoken tension hanging heavy between us. It was a Tuesday, usually quiet in their suburban neighborhood, but today the silence was charged with anticipation. At exactly 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. Maeve, humming a tune, walked to the door, clearly annoyed, expecting a solicitor or delivery. She opened it, her polite smile in place, then it faltered and disappeared. Standing on their porch were 2 uniformed police officers, with Sabrina calmly beside them. The scene was set, the perfect suburban house, the perfect family inside, and the undeniable truth standing at their doorstep. "Mrs. Donovan," one officer began, his voice calm and professional, "we have a court order for immediate possession of this property." My mother's face, at first a picture of polite confusion, crumpled into sheer horror. What is this? You can't do this. This is our house," she shrieked, her voice rising in panic as her carefully maintained mask of civility shattered completely into a million pieces. My father, Roland, lumbered into the foyer, newspaper still in hand. He took one look at the officers, then at Sabrina, and finally at me, standing a few feet behind them, my face expressionless. His usually booming voice shrank to a feeble stammer. "What in God's name is going on here?" Just then, Reed strolled in from the kitchen, a half-eaten breakfast bar in hand, a smug grin plastered across his face. But the moment he saw the scene, he froze. His eyes widened in confusion, then pure, unfiltered fear. The familiar arrogance drained from his face, replaced by a pale, stunned look. The scent of my mother's expensive lilac perfume, once a comforting presence, now clashed acridly with the sterile smell of the police uniforms. The air buzzed with tension. Sabrina stepped forward, calm and authoritative. "Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, my client Mason Donovan has presented irrefutable evidence of financial fraud and unjust enrichment concerning this property. The court has granted an emergency order for possession. She held up a thick stack of documents. These include bank statements, emails, proof of payments covering the entire mortgage, and the recently uncovered fraudulent mortgage taken out in your names after my client paid off the original loan. My mother let out a strangled gasp, clutching her chest, while Roland's face turned ashen. Their excuses for dismissing and gaslighting me crumbled under the weight of undeniable, documented truth. The police officer, impassive, confirmed the court order's validity. You have 24 hours to vacate the premises, Mr. and Mrs. Donovan, or face legal action for forcible detainer and fraud. The chilling finality of those words echoed through the suddenly silent house. What followed was chaos. My mother, hysterical and sobbing, clawed at my father's arm. Reed, desperate and cornered, frantically called friends, trying to find an excuse, a way out. His usual charm was now a pathetic, whiny plea. Their frantic calls to family and acquaintances were met with cold shoulders. Those who had long witnessed their preferential treatment of Reed and subtle put-downs of me now shared stories that exposed their true manipulative nature. The facade of the perfect family was utterly and irrevocably shattered. Then, an unexpected ally appeared: Aunt Clara, my father's often overlooked sister. Minutes after the police left, she pulled up and stepped out of her car, eyes sharp and knowing as she took in the scene. She didn't say a word to my parents but walked straight to me, placed a hand on my arm, and gave me a silent, powerful hug. Then she turned to my father and Maeve, her voice quiet but firm. You reap what you sow. Her presence quietly affirmed my truth and deepened their public humiliation. Reed, now fully exposed to the consequences of his actions, scrambled to manipulate his parents. His once arrogant entitlement had dissolved into a pathetic whiny plea, revealing his true nature to anyone who'd listen. The feeling wasn't triumph, not exactly. It was cold, hard justice of profound release. The fight wasn't over, not yet. But the tide had turned. The house was mine, my house, and I had taken it back. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of harsh legal formalities and raw, exposed emotion. My parents, stunned and reeling, scrambled to pack. I watched from the street, caught between detachment and a deep sense of loss. The house that had once felt like a loving embrace, then a suffocating cage, was now just a structure. It stood as a symbol of a battle won, yet also a battle that should never have been fought. The public fallout was swift and merciless. My parents' meticulously crafted reputation, their flawless family facade crumbled beneath the weight of the truth. What had started as hushed whispers soon became open conversation, ripping through their social circles. My mother's attempts to spread malicious rumors about my mental stability and ingratitude were met with widespread disbelief and scorn. Aunt Clara, a quiet but respected voice in the community, subtly validated my story, sharing her own observations of their favoritism and manipulative behaviors over the years. Disillusioned mutual friends, who had long found my parents' treatment of me puzzling, suddenly pieced together years of subtle slights and Reed's unchecked arrogance. Their carefully constructed image shattered, and the perfect family became a cautionary tale in the neighborhood. Reed, now completely unmoored without his parents' enabling and my financial safety net, was left adrift. He called me repeatedly, his tone swinging between angry accusations and desperate attempts at reconciliation. Mason, you ruined everything. How could you do this to your own family? He'd yell. Minutes later, his voice would soften. Come on, Mason, we're brothers. We can fix this, right? Just tell them it was all a misunderstanding. His trademark arrogance and entitlement, once a source of irritation, now sounded hollow and pathetic. I met his pleas with cold, unwavering silence. The financial well had run dry, and he had no choice but to confront the consequences of his own recklessness. Though emotionally exhausting, the legal process ultimately ended in my favor. The property was officially transferred to my name. The financial hardship my parents endured was severe, a direct result of years of manipulation and now legal repercussions for fraud. They lost not only the house, but a substantial portion of their remaining assets to legal fees and restitution. The moment court documents were stamped final felt like a weight lifting from deep within me. 10 years of heavy chains finally broken. The victory didn't taste sweet, but it was clean and pure, like cold, fresh water after a long drought. The exhaustion following the legal battle was profound, settling deep into my bones. But slowly, a new feeling began to take root. Peace, a quiet, profound liberation and self-acceptance. I spent weeks simply being, allowing myself to grieve the family I thought I had, and to embrace the freedom I had finally claimed. The constant tightness in my chest, the invisible burden I hadn't realized was permanent, finally eased. The sense of being valued only for my financial contributions dissolved like morning mist under the sun. I was worthy of love and respect, inherently, not conditionally. My relationship with Sabrina, my brilliant lawyer, grew stronger. She was more than legal counsel. She became a trusted confidant, a friend who saw me clearly and without judgment. We met often for coffee, talking not only about legal matters, but about life, boundaries, and building a future rooted in integrity. She embodied a new, healthier idea of family, one founded on honesty, respect, and genuine care. Then there was Aunt Clara, a cherished presence and a quiet anchor in my turbulent world. She visited often, bringing homemade apple pie, and we would sit for hours sharing stories. She spoke of my grandmother and her own experiences of being overlooked and undervalued within the family, validating my feelings and confirming that these patterns of manipulation were nothing new. Family isn't always blood, Mason, she often said, her wise eyes twinkling. It's about who you choose, those who stand by you, who see you for who you truly are, not for what you can give. Her words struck a deep chord within me, cementing my newfound understanding. The quiet comfort of simple moments with Sabrina and Aunt Clara felt far more meaningful and nourishing than any elaborate, emotionally exhausting family reunion I had ever endured. Moving into my house was surreal. It no longer felt like a place shadowed by betrayal, but a blank canvas for a fresh start. I wandered through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing the only sound, and for the first time, I felt genuinely free. The scent of fresh paint replaced the lingering traces of my mother's oppressive presence, and their control, it was intoxicating. I painted the living room a soothing sage green, tore down the old floral wallpaper in the dining room, and swapped it for a clean, modern design. Each choice, every brushstroke, felt like laying a new brick in the foundation of my self-defined sanctuary, a home where I was truly safe and truly seen. I focused on my career, finding a new, fulfilling role at a company that valued my work and respected my boundaries. I even began saving for the backpacking trip through Europe, a dream I had put off for over 10 years. The sense of freedom and possibility was thrilling, filling my soul with a steady hum of gratitude. My journey proves that sometimes the hardest goodbyes lead to the most profound hellos. The pain of betrayal still lingers, a faint scar on my heart, but it no longer defines me. I learned that true family isn't defined by blood, but by deep, unwavering bonds built on respect, honesty, and unconditional love. I discovered that my self-worth is inherent, not something earned through endless sacrifice. Most importantly, I learned the power of setting boundaries, of choosing myself, and of finding peace within my own truth. The house that once held so much pain now stands as a quiet, steadfast symbol of my resilience and freedom. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.